I grew up in a family where all the attention was focused on Madison, my older sister. If she was the shining sun, I was just a faint shadow on the edge of its light. I can't remember the last time my parents truly looked at me with pride, but I clearly remember the way they cherished Madison like something rare and irreplaceable. As a child, I tried so hard to be seen. I entered every school competition from debates to science fairs, hoping that one day my parents would look at me the way they looked at her. But no matter how much effort I put in, the result was always the same. I still remember one evening when I was 12, the night of the school's science fair awards. I had spent weeks building a smart, eco-friendly house model, sacrificing many sleepless nights. When they called my name for first place, I could barely believe it. With a certificate and medal in my hands, my heart filled with hope. But when I got home, Madison was already on the sofa, glowing as she talked about a dance routine she'd just performed at rehearsal. Everyone clapped so loudly, she said excitedly. The teacher even told me I have natural talent. Her golden hair caught the warm light of the lamp beside her. I waited for the moment Mom would turn and notice the medal in my hands, but instead she just smiled at Madison, gently ruffling her hair. "You really have an artistic gift, sweetheart," she said proudly. I stood there holding my certificate, feeling a heavy weight in my chest. When I finally spoke, I said, "Mom, I won first place at the science fair today." She barely glanced at the medal and gave a faint smile. "That's nice, honey. Was the competition hard?" I went silent. Dad sat in his chair, eyes still on his newspaper, not even bothering to look up. No one asked about my project. No one seemed to care how much effort I had put in. That night, I lay in bed holding the medal, tears slipping down my cheeks. I couldn't understand why I was never enough. As the years passed, I learned to accept my place. I stopped trying to get their attention and focused instead on academic. If I couldn't be loved, at least I could be the best at something. Then I met Nathan. He was the first person who made me feel truly seen. He didn't just listen. He remembered every little thing, that I liked chamomile tea at night, that I loved capturing candid photos, that I kept a notebook full of strange dreams. We started dating when I was 20. Being with Nathan felt like stepping out of Madison's shadow for the first time. I was loved without needing to earn it. But of course, Madison couldn't let that be. I remember the night Nathan came over for dinner. Mom brought out her best dishes, and Dad poured drinks like we were hosting a special guest. But it quickly became clear the evening wasn't about me, it was about Madison. She sat across from me, her blue eyes sparkling as she looked at Nathan. She smiled, tilted her head, her hair glowing under the chandelier. I saw that look, the one I knew all too well. "So Nathan, what do you do?" Madison asked sweetly. "I'm an assistant designer at an architecture firm," he replied. "Wow, that's so interesting," she giggled. "People in that field are usually so creative." Her fingers lightly traced the edge of her glass. I tensed. I knew exactly what she was doing. I had seen it too many times before. When she wanted something, she usually got it. All through dinner, she kept drawing Nathan's attention. I tried to stay calm, reminding myself that he loved me, that he wouldn't fall for her charm, but deep down, something inside me shifted. After dinner, I went into the kitchen to clean up, trying to shake off the discomfort. Then I heard her laugh. Turning around, I saw Madison standing next to Nathan, her hand gently resting on his arm. My heart dropped. "Madison, what are you doing?" I asked quietly, only loud enough for her to hear. She gave a small shrug, lips curved in an innocent smile. "Relax, Lucy, we're just talking." But I knew it was more than that. The next day, Nathan texted me less, then even less. Our meetups became awkward, filled with long silences, until one afternoon, standing in my apartment with my heart pounding, I heard the words I'd been dreading. "Lucy, I'm sorry. It's Madison. I think I have feelings for her." I stood frozen. "You're choosing her?" I asked, my voice trembling. Nathan didn't answer right away, and in that silence, everything was clear. I looked at him one last time, then turned away. I didn't cry, not then. I shut the door behind him and stood still in my tiny apartment. The silence felt like it could swallow me whole. Nathan was gone. Madison had won. I looked around. The worn-out chair, the stack of books, the photo I'd taken of last year's sunset. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. In just a few moments, my entire world had changed. I picked up my phone and scrolled through my contacts, not even knowing what I was looking for. a message from Nathan, an apology from Madison, or just a sign that I still mattered. But there was nothing, just a blank screen reflecting my stunned face. That night, I drove home. I didn't know why, maybe I just needed to feel some kind of warmth, even if it wasn't real. But as I stepped inside, my mother stood there, arms crossed, her face cold. "Lucy, you can't keep blowing things out of proportion," she said with a sigh. "Nathan made his choice. You need to learn to accept it." I clenched my fists, trying to keep my voice steady. Accept it. Accept that she took the person I loved, that once again I'm the one left behind. Mom shook her head. "Madison didn't take anyone. If Nathan really loved you, he wouldn't have changed his mind." My chest tightened. I looked over at my father, hoping just maybe he would say something, anything. But as usual, he simply turned the page of his newspaper, not even bothering to look up. I let out a bitter laugh. "I see. Madison has always been the important one, hasn't she?" No one responded. That night, I packed my things in silence. I didn't need much, just a suitcase of clothes, a few books, and the old camera I had bought at a thrift store back in high school. I left a note on the kitchen counter. "I'm leaving, don't call." Then I stepped out the door and didn't look back. I moved into a small apartment in the city, a place where no one knew who I was, where I could finally begin again, free from Madison's shadow. I found a job as a waitress at a small diner. It was always busy, the clatter of dishes, the hum of conversation, the constant rhythm of orders being called out. Strangely, I liked it. I wasn't Madison's forgotten little sister, I was just Lucy, the girl who made the best coffee in the place. At night I enrolled in business courses at a community college. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I knew I needed knowledge, so I'd never have to rely on anyone again. The first few months were hard. I was exhausted from long shifts, late night classes, and eating instant noodles alone in my tiny apartment. But something was changing. I was learning how to take care of myself, to stand on my own, to stop needing my family's approval. Then I found photography. One night after work, I sat by my window, watching the streetlights reflect off rain-soaked pavement. I picked up my camera and snapped a photo. I didn't know why, but when I looked at the image on the screen, I felt something, a little peace, a little hope. I started taking more pictures of forgotten corners of the city, the homeless bundled up on sidewalks, the abandoned bikes left to rust. I didn't have fancy equipment, but I had an eye for the things others overlooked. One day in the park, while photographing, a man approached me. He wore a slightly rumpled suit, his tie loosened, dark hair a bit unkempt. "Are you a photographer?" he asked. I chuckled. "I just take pictures for fun." He looked at the image on my camera screen. "You have a unique eye." "I'm Daniel, creative director for an art magazine. I'm looking for a photographer for a piece on urban life." I blinked. "You wanna hire me?" He nodded. "I'd like to see more of your work first. But yes, I think you have potential." I could hardly believe it. I was so used to being ignored, but this time, someone actually saw me. That night, I sat in my apartment, looking through the photos I'd taken over the last few months. I remembered the feeling of holding that medal when I was 12, the hope, and how quickly it had been crushed. But this time was different. I didn't need their validation anymore. I had found my own light, and I wouldn't let anyone dim it. The next day, I sent Daniel my portfolio. 3 days later, I got a reply. "Amazing. When can you start?" I smiled. For the first time I knew I was on the right path. I never thought I'd hear about Madison again. But then one day, Lydia called. My cousin, the only one in the family who had never treated me like I was invisible. We didn't talk often, but when we did, she always brought news from the world I'd left behind. "Lucy, do you have a moment?" Lydia's voice came through the phone, hesitant. I was editing photos for the magazine, but I stopped. "What is it?" "It's about Madison and Nathan." My grip on the phone tightened. Even after all these years, their names still pulled me back into the past. "I don't care," I said, steadying my voice. "I think you might," she replied gently. "Their marriage is falling apart. Nathan hates his job, and Madison is spending money like it grows on trees. They're drowning in debt, still trying to keep up appearance." I let out a short laugh, not from satisfaction, but from irony. "So," Lydia hesitated, then continued, "you know, everyone in the family still talks about Madison, like she's perfect, but I'm starting to see the cracks. Your mom, Aunt Linda, used to brag about her all the time, But now, she's starting to talk about you. I froze. Why? Because you made it, Lydia said softly. And Madison didn't. Madison and Nathan had been married less than 3 years, but their dream life had unraveled. Nathan, once ambitious, was now stuck in a job he hated. Madison spent money recklessly, buying luxury items, traveling, posting curated pictures to maintain her perfect image. But behind those polished photos, reality wasn't glamorous. Nathan's miserable, Lydia continued. He can't stand her. They fight all the time. He's exhausted, and Madison refuses to change. I leaned back in my chair, processing everything. I had once thought that leaving was the only way to find peace, but now, it seemed Madison was trapped in the very illusion she built for herself. I didn't say anything. Lydia kept talking. They're on the verge of splitting up, Lucy, and I don't think Madison knows how to handle it. I glanced at the photo on my screen, a little girl under a streetlight, eyes wide with hope. Once, I had been that girl, waiting for love, for recognition, but now, I didn't need it anymore. All of this, I said quietly, has nothing to do with me anymore, Lydia. She sighed. I know, but I still thought you should know. I ended the call and leaned back in my chair. No matter how hard I tried to leave the past behind, it always found a way to return. But that wasn't the end of it. A few weeks later, Lydia called me again, this time with different news. Lucy, it's about Uncle Robert. I froze. My father, the man who had always been distant, who had never truly seen me no matter how hard I tried. He's gone, Lydia said, her voice as soft as a breeze. A strange feeling washed over me. Not sadness, not regret, just emptiness. Are you going to the funeral? Lydia asked. I didn't answer right away. I knew that if I went back, I'd have to face Madison, my mother and the rest of the family that had cast me aside. But did I really need to return? That evening, I told Daniel about Lydia's call. He sat on the couch, concern in his eyes as he looked at me. What do you think? He asked. I gazed out the window, the city lights shimmering like distant stars. I don't know, I admitted. I don't feel anything for them anymore. But maybe I need to go, to finally close that chapter. Daniel nodded. If you want to go, I'll go with you. For the first time in years, I returned to my old home. I walked into the funeral in a simple black dress, feeling like an outsider at an event I didn't belong to. My mother sat in the front row, eyes red, but when she saw me, her expression changed, not to relief, but to hesitation. Then I saw Madison, still beautiful, but something had shifted. She no longer radiated like the sun. Instead, it seemed like she was desperately holding on to something slipping away. I didn't think you'd come, Madison said, her voice sharp. I smirked. Well, then I heard a familiar voice behind me. Oh, Lucy. It was Nathan. He looked older, his eyes tired. The confidence he once had was gone. When he saw Daniel step beside me, confusion briefly crossed his face. How have you been? Nathan asked awkwardly. I shrugged. Good. And you? He gave a sad chuckle. Guess you've heard it's not what I expected. I said nothing, just looked at Nathan, Madison, my mother, all the people who once made me feel invisible. But I was no longer that version of Lucy. I turned to my mother. You always said Madison deserved everything. So, do you have what you wanted now? She didn't answer. I glanced at Madison one last time, then took Daniel's hand. Let's go. This time as I walked out the door I felt no weight. That chapter was finally closed. I never expected to hear from my mother again, but one evening, as I was editing the final photos for my exhibition, my phone rang. An unknown number. My instinct told me not to answer but I did. Lucy, it was my mother's voice, softer than I remember, as if she had lost the certainty she once carried. I didn't respond right away. How many years had it been since we truly spoke? She cleared her throat, struggling to find the right words. I know you probably don't want to hear this, but I need to say it. I gripped the phone tighter. You have 1 minute, I said, my voice calm, but cold. She sighed. Madison isn't doing well. I let out a quiet laugh, not out of amusement, but irony. She had spent her life only caring about Madison, and now, with my sister struggling, suddenly I existed again. Let me guess, I said, still looking at the image on my screen. Nathan's tired of the marriage. Madison's been spending too much. Now they're having financial issues. Silence. I knew I was right. You don't understand, she said, her voice trembling. Nathan's thinking about leaving. He says he can't take it anymore. And Madison, she won't accept it. She still thinks everything will be fine, but it's clearly not. I crossed my arms. And what do you want me to do about it? My mother blinked, as if she couldn't believe my reaction. I just thought you would care. After all, she's still your sister. Sister, I scoffed. You say that like Madison ever treated me like I was part of her life. She didn't respond. I could imagine her gripping the phone tightly, trying to convince me, as if this were some touching family drama where I'd suddenly soften, and come running back. But that wasn't reality. Why did you really call me? I asked, my voice calmer than I expected. Because I realized I was wrong, she admitted. I know I treated you unfairly. I know I favored Madison too much, but you have to understand, I never meant to hurt you. I just wanted what was best for both of you. I let out a quiet, bitter laugh. No, you didn't want what was best for both of us. You wanted what was best for Madison, and acted like I didn't even exist. She didn't argue. I took a deep breath. You called me because Madison is struggling, not because you actually want to fix anything between us. You just don't have anyone else to turn to now. My mother took a shaky breath. Lucy, please. I closed my eyes, keeping my voice steady. I've already forgiven myself, I said, but I don't owe you anything. And I hung up. I didn't think much about that call afterward. There was no more anger, no more bitterness, just relief. Over the next month, I poured my energy into the most important project of my career, Unseen, my first photography book. The images weren't just pictures of places, they were fragments of a story, the forgotten corners of the city, the unnoticed people, the hidden smiles, the quiet sadness. They weren't just photographs, they were me. The book launch was held in a small but intimate gallery. My photos hung on the walls, softly lit, and carefully arranged. Daniel stood beside me, holding my hand, a quiet reassurance that I was no longer alone. As I stepped forward to speak, something shifted inside me. My whole life I thought I was invisible. I began, my voice carrying through the quiet room. I thought I had to prove my worth to people who never truly saw me. I paused, looking out at the crowd. My eyes landed on Lydia, on Daniel, on the people who had stood by me through everything. But I was wrong. I don't need their validation to be myself. And if anyone here has ever felt like they don't matter, remember this, you've always been enough. Sometimes you just have to find your own light. Applause filled the room, but more powerful than the sound was the feeling in my chest. I had finally stepped out of Madison's shadow, no longer the forgotten little sister, no longer the girl fighting to be seen. I was simply me, and for the first time that was enough. One late afternoon, as I was organizing photos for my next exhibition, I received a letter, a simple envelope, nothing remarkable, just my name, written in slanted handwriting I hadn't seen in years. I knew immediately it was from my mother. I held the letter in my hands, feeling the rough texture of the paper beneath my fingers. Part of me wanted to tear it apart, but another part hesitated. I was no longer the little girl who craved her approval. Quietly, I opened the envelope. My eyes scanned the words. Lucy, I know you may not want to read this, but I still want to say it, whether you listen or not. I was wrong. I didn't see. I let you become lost within our family. I thought Madison needed me more, but I never realized you needed someone to stand beside you too. It wasn't until you left that I understood. I lost you in a way I may never be able to fix. If you can find it in your heart to forgive me, I hope one day we can talk again. I placed the letter on the table. I didn't cry. I didn't feel angry. I just felt free. How many years had I waited for this? An apology, a recognition that I wasn't invisible in my own family. But now, having finally received it, I realized I didn't need it anymore. Forgiveness doesn't mean going back to what was. It doesn't mean opening the door to the past and risking hurt all over again. Sometimes forgiveness simply means letting go. I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer, not because I planned to reply, but because I wanted to keep it as a reminder, a testament, that I had overcome everything, without needing anyone's validation. That evening, I went to my gallery, where my latest photographs were on display. Soft lighting illuminated each frame, cityscapes at dawn, unseen moments I had captured through my lens. Daniel stood beside me, his hand gently holding mine. Lydia chatted with a group of guests, her face glowing with happiness. I walked toward the photograph at the center. It was a black and white portrait of me, taken from behind, a girl standing between two towering buildings, light glimmering ahead, while shadows lingered behind her. A Lucy who was once forgotten, who once sought acceptance, and a Lucy who now stood free from the past. I smiled. I was whole, strong, No longer anyone's shadow. That light ahead, it was mine. Lucy's story isn't just about betrayal or pain, it's about finding oneself. In life we sometimes get lost in the shadows of others, overlooked, but our worth is not defined by family or social validation. It's found in our ability to rise and create our own light. Forgiveness doesn't always mean reconciliation. Sometimes it just means moving on. And the most powerful truth of all, we are always enough, always worth, whether others recognize it or not. What do you think about Lucy's journey? Do you relate to her story? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to follow the channel for more powerful stories about family life and the journey to self-worth.